Welcome to the new JFK show number 187. We're going to have Larry Rivera running roughshod over the JFK community. Once again, we've been saying it for years because it's been happening for years. And Larry, I want you to introduce your new book. So go ahead.
Well, Gary, thank you for the introduction. You know, this is a project that's been ongoing for 6 years, and I wanted to, start, the evening with, the publication of the JFK Horsemen. And I have to thank because, without Jim Fetcher and Dave Garrity, this would have never been possible. Jim was the first one who believed in my research and gave me a chance, and I have, a lot of researchers out there, ask me, why, hang out with Jim. I say, well, hey, he's the one that gave me a chance, so, forget it,
Yeah, Larry, look at what an absurd issue that is, I promoted, all the medical evidence. I published the book that shattered the cover up. I was the first to take on the authenticity of the Zapruder film. I've supported Lyndon Johnson as a pivotal player. What the hell have I been wrong about that they should ask you why you should be associated with me?
And 3 of the major books that have ever been published, Murder in Dealy, Plaza, Assassination Science, and the Great Zapruder Film Hoax, which are required reading for anybody who wants to, research the JFK assassination, so... those are like a required reading, as far as I'm concerned.
People who are saying those things to you are slackers or disinfo ops. I'm sorry to say, Larry, you're just grossly ignorant about the true state and the nature of research.
But I don't pay attention to them because, we all know the truth.
And then Gary's holding up the latest JFK Who, How, and Why, to which you yourself have made contributions.
Yeah. And this latest... like I said, this has been a 6-year project where I bring up together all of the information that I have worked on over the years, and I thank Jim, for actually putting together the table of contents and the continuity of the book, and I just wanted to mention that this style and the layout that we present defies convention because it offers the reader the images of the actual documents that are cited in key discussions throughout the book. For example, a lot of times you read all these JFK books and they give you, the references, and the biblical, back at the end of the book. So a lot of times you have to go physically and a lot of, I don't know about you, Jim, but, you sort of get lost, in the shuffle, having to go back. And,
sure.
Yeah, right. So
I like what you did, Larry.
Yeah. So and the way that we have designed this book, we actually present those.
And isn't Dave a pleasure to work with?
Yes, he is. He's
He is one of the 2 persons I've known in my life with the best disposition. The other being David W. Mantic.
Yeah. And, like I said, you don't have to go back and look at appendices, and chase down the actual sources, and this approach, like I said, allows one to fully appreciate the cited researcher's frame of mind as it pertains to the presentation at hand, and this is the cover. And I just wanted to briefly, go over the table of contents.
Do it.
Yeah. And again, I want to thank Jim, for arranging, this in a cohesive manner because, once he looked at, all the chapters and everything, he said,
yeah, it's like Larry Rivera is coming batting cleanup. When you come in and you clean up the plates, the way I look at it.
I like it.
Well, ever since Dallas, back in Dallas last November, a lot of people were asking, for this and like I said, it's been a long time coming, and finally it's here, and I'm very happy to say, we start with the first section. The first part of the book is actually about the Alton's photographs. We go right into the meat and potatoes, of the issue. All right, and then we did a couple of chapters. Then the Alton's photographic timeline, the Jaggers-Charles-Stovall connection. Then we actually dedicate 9 chapters, I was counting this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 chapters to the man in the doorway, Jim. Which
wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Anybody.
I was just thinking, Larry, when I initially got into this in a serious way, I published like probably 9 different blogs about it, and it was primarily with Ralph and others, even including Judith. And your work is just putting it together. I love it.
Yeah. And again, in a very cohesive manner. And then when we start to look at this, from afar, then I said, wait a minute, we have something here. And then the framing of Lee, where we have another 5 chapters, dedicated to that, ending with the backyard photos, which I think is one of the most important chapters of the book, obviously. And then we go to Dealy Plaza, okay, and we take a look at our field work there. We're Crossfire. Remember, we went in 2014. We went down there under the bridge and everything, and took pictures there, and followed Roy Schaefer's information and everything, which I loved every minute of it. Because every time I take people down there, they start to look at the angles and everything, and say, wait a minute, you're right about this. Because once you see the limo coming down Elm Street and the S curve and everything there, and you see how many seconds that limo was coming straight at that man, at that sniper from right under the triple underpass there at Carmen.
Right.
Yeah, don't forget the locker that they were able to put the rifle in.
That's right.
Yes, and I wanted to mention that
it was the 3 of us who were there together. It was great.
Yeah, and then a fellow researcher
that was a fun trip, by the way, Gary. I had my arm in a sling.
Yeah,
exactly. We got to do that again.
Yeah, we got.
If anybody wants to see that, well, no, I'm sorry, it's not up yet.
Check this out.
Skip this sling the next time.
And check this out. A fellow researcher of ours, who's on the board. He's on the board with Judy's conference. Ray Hale. He went over there, and that box was open, and he took pictures of it, and he sent them to me. And I, at the 11th hour, I was able to add those pictures into the book.
Perfect.
It was open, and it showed the exact dimensions where you could easily hide a rifle in there. A high-powered, rifle. So
blend right in with the crowd. All you had to do was walk out and look.
You sorted that out beautifully, Larry.
And other people have followed this lead and say, and they've gone down there and say, hey, wait a minute, and they've taken videos and they've sent them to me, and I'm like, oh man, I've created a monster here,
It's wonderful.
Lookout. Yeah, you could have had a lookout at the end of the tunnel. Remember how dark it was?
No, yeah.
Larry, what's actually happening is that the serious members of the research community are gravitating our way, and it's sorting out the wheat from the chaff. Those who ignore are not worth having anyway because they aren't serious or they're working the other side of the street.
Yeah, just for the minute. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm just going to make an announcement that Black Op Radio is going to entertain the fact that one of the frames in the Z film could have possibly been altered. See, that's the kind of stuff,
Are you kidding me?
How pathetic is that? How pathetic is that?
I'm going to tell you right now, everything in this book, they completely steer clear of, and most shills do.
Yeah, and obviously the most exquisite chapters in my mind of this book are, the Queen Hakati and the JFK Horsemen, which are Beverly Brunson, the star,
Yeah, Beverly Brunson, the star.
Yeah, we've been talking about her for years, Gary,
You've just done such a sensational job with this book, Larry. My hat is off to you, my friend.
And the JFK Horsemen, which, of course, thanks to Tyler Newcomb, he's the one that brought it all together, because of the information that we obtained from
from his father's recordings, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, irrefutable. Even Douglas Horn, utilized that information. He said, "Wait a minute, this is irrefutable here. You're talking about people who were there, okay? The motorcycle cops, and they're giving you their experiences, from what what happened that day. And we're talking about Hodges, Cheney, Jackson. Jackson said, that the Z film has been all cut up,
Yeah.
Hey, Larry, let me ask you this. The point on which I have been challenged in reconstructing these issues is the amount of time of the limo stop. My estimate, as you know, it's hard for me to see how it could have been less than 20 seconds. Do you believe it's been less than 20 seconds?
Yeah. I used to think that was ridiculous, but not anymore. At one time,
and then you've got the issue of James Chaney. You know, he says Hargis ran in between the two limos.
Right, I know, I love it.
You know,
I love it.
Excuse me. Jackson says 5 Secret Service men surrounded the limo.
I love it.
You know, like
meanwhile, this is when Clint Hill rushes up to the limo. That's how come he was able to catch up to it. It wasn't even moving.
Yeah, right. And then, you know, all of them are saying, you know, this thing was crawling up, along Elm Street. We could put our boots on the ground. You know, our motorcycles were tipping over. You know, I mean, what else do you need? You know?
Yeah. Doug Horn was using that. And do you know that
Gary and I did this show? Gary, 3 years ago? Remember the first JFK Horsemen?
Longer than that. But the last time that David didn't have a conference in 2014, the one that I attended. That's when Doug Horn gave his final presentation.
Right. And he mentions
Larry Rivera.
Yeah, and he mentions Davis Ellis, you know, where he talked about the little kid picking up the piece of skull, you know, over there on the south curb of in the infield, you know, and we all know from the process of elimination that it had to have been Joey Brehm, Charles Brehm's son, and the Secret Service man snatched it away from his hands and threw it into the limo. You know how. You know,
and Larry, this had to have been the Harper fragment that they brought back the next day.
Of course, which later on we see in frame 374 that you discovered, and in 343, you know, which I discovered, you know, which are wow, you know, it's like
yeah.
You know,
so, of course, the fragment was way up the street where the shot had to come from the sniper's nest, right?
Well, you know the way that it plays out is. This fragment was repositioned the next day so that Billy Harper could find it.
Right.
Okay. Because
it would be thought to be supportive of a shot from behind.
That's right, because they placed it forward.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, and you know, you're gonna tell me on Friday they scour the entire crime scene, CSI.
Right. You wouldn't find a huge chunk of skull like that.
Exactly.
They were finding bullets in the grass.
And then the next day at 5 o'clock, we're talking about more than 20, almost 30 hours after the assassination. Oh, here's a big, 2.5 pieces.
Guess what I found?
Yeah, right. Yeah, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, what do you guys think about the bullet that got bit on that was found many years later?
I don't believe anything about James Files. You know, he's not even relevant. You know, in this.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So let's go. I think this thing about Blahut, you know, is extremely relevant.
It is. It's fascinating, Larry. Absolutely fascinating.
This is something that's new. Okay, everybody wants to talk about, you know, and
so 5 years from now they'll mention it on Black Op Radio.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, we've got the documents this time.
It's up to them, you know.
Gary, it's just embarrassing. Those guys have turned out to be not just mediocrities, but counterproductive. They're really suppressing research. They're trying to drive us back to before Oliver Stone, for God's sake.
Well, I think that the significance of this is what I talked about in Washington, you know, at the conference, is that we have a puzzle, all right? And books that have been published before have posited their thesis based on certain pieces of the puzzle, Jim, all right? So now we have remember I said 39,000 new documents, and some of these PDFs are like up to 5 pages, you know? So we're talking about maybe about 250,000 pages of new documents.
Right.
You have to go through page by page because they're not searchable, right? So
you made that point very nicely, how they've deliberately made it extremely difficult and time-consuming to actually assess.
That's right. So, and anybody, you know, who wants to follow, you know, this research, all they have to do is go to the websites of the National Archives and go and download the files. You know, I'm not putting you on about any of this. You know,
so you're telling us, Larry, that nobody's coming to you in the middle of the night with a trench coat on and handing you files?
No, of course not. So what and we're just scratching the surface, guys. You know, I've been
there may be some. I mean, as this illustrates, there's some really good stuff in these documents.
That's right. Remember last week we did the stuff about the Northwoods, you know, and
oh yeah, let's blow up a couple of boatloads of
Lansdale, Lansdale and stuff like that. You know, they wanted to, you know, and those are brand new documents that we're talking about here. Now here we're talking about something that happened during the HSCA, where Robert Blakey and all of his, you know, minions, okay, for lack of a better word. And I don't think there were as much minions because these guys had a mind of their own. These guys really wanted to get to the truth.
Blakey, of course, was a mob guy. He never had a serious disposition to find out who really did it.
Well, not only that, Jim, I think that he was just going through the motions. We know that.
Yeah.
But this, the information here really puts him on the spot because his underlings, you know, the people that were working for him, really were pissed off about what was going on, you know, when Blahut went over there and rifled through the files and everything. And we're going to talk about this here tonight because I think,
of course. But Larry, you put your finger on it. It was just to disrupt the chain of custody. Though he may have substituted some photographs for others, if they actually had authentic autopsy photographs.
Well, we're never going to know. That's the point. That's the point of all this, you know. What if those photographs were the real deal? And then Blahut went in there and, you know, and did the switch. You know, we're never going to know. You know, regardless, you know, we know that these shenanigans that are going on here are something that even the Washington Post, as we're seeing here, thought it was important enough. But, you know, what they don't report it until a year later. You know, this happens in June of 1978, and they don't start reporting on it until 1979. So,
you know, Larry, reading this, George Gardner, I believe, actually was CIA, but here,
absolutely, I thank you. I mean, thank you for mentioning it because you're going to see that there is a passage in one of these articles where it makes it so obvious that he was CIA. All right.
Yet when you start to read it, it starts to read as though it's authentic and actually trying to get at the truth.
And you know, and like he's got the inside information, Jim.
Right. Because he's connected.
Yeah, of course.
He has sources.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a project here called MH Child, okay, that we're gonna talk about, and this is something that. If you go to maryfarrell.org, which is supposed to be, you know, the #1 source of information on JFK and the cryptonyms on, you know, all the CIA operations and whatever, you're not going to find anything on MH Child. MH Child was what we would call a babysitting operation where you would have a CIA agent in case of any investigation, congressional or otherwise, where they would have, and this is exactly what happened with George Ioannidis. Okay, this is exactly the same situation where they.
You know, if there's a Ioannidis file and what's been released, I'm suspecting.
No.
I know. See, that's our deepest, darkest secret.
Yeah, they're holding those. Yeah, those progress reports of October, November, and December.
Those are never going to see the light of day.
Yeah, never. Okay, so you know, but this is the same analogous. This is the same situation here. You know, where you have a babysitter that is there for a congressional. Maybe the church, you know, had the same church committee. All right, might have had somebody there, you know, from the CIA. You know, looking at and supervising, you know, what was being released and everything, and in with the HSCA, obviously, and I just to give you a little bit of background, when Richard Sprague, the first Richard Sprague, who was the first head counsel,
and he was a good man, which is why they got rid of him.
Exactly, he resigned because
he was going to treat it as a homicide, as motive, means, and opportunity.
And not only that, Jim, he said that he wanted to have power of subpoena to anybody and any document.
Right. He wanted to solve the case.
Yeah, no, I know. And when they said no, you know, he said, well, okay, I'm out of here. And that's when they went to Tannenbaum. And then after Tannenbaum, they went to Blakey, you know. and on and on and on, but, so, at first the Washington Post, obviously, reported on this, and I want to see where I have the mouse pointer here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is what I want to focus on. Okay, it says the assignment, it has since been learned, was made under a CIA program called
codenamed.
Yeah, codenamed MH Child, which sources describe as encompassing a variety of so-called babysitting chores. All right. Now, what that means is that you've got a supervisor there who's going to report back, to the big kahuna,
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if you guys want to, read through these, but Lardner obviously, and the thing that I wanted to focus on here, when Lardner writes this, okay, he's talking about which sources described, okay, as encompassing. All right. So what this means is that he's got the connections, inside of the CIA,
right?
As far as what this whole MH Child. I mean, let me tell you, and this MH Child operation, you will not find anything on the internet or at Mary Farrell. This is something. This is brand new. And apparently, and this is why when I'm talking about the different pieces to the puzzle, some of these pieces have already gone by, but now when you look at these new documents, you have to go back and you look. And I got these from Weisberg's site, and Weisberg at the time didn't even know what the hell this is all about, But now that we have this, which we're going to present now it brings the entire situation into focus, where you say, oh, wait a minute, now I know what this was all about, So that's the importance of what I was talking about in Washington, where you have to, I love the books by John Newman, with the CIA, Vietnam and everything, but he was limited to a certain amount of documents. Now, when you have all these different a lot of more documents available, you have to rethink this whole situation. And like I said, some of these books need to be rewritten, or reconfigured in a way, I don't know, because you're talking about, new information here that is giving you more and more information, new pieces to the puzzle. So anyway, we were talking about, how somebody went and rifled through the JFK files, and they found out that it was this Regis Blahut.
Yeah. Go back to the first part, Gary, and I'll read a couple paragraphs here. It says,
sure.
CIA officer Blahut, this source said, went into a room where he wasn't supposed to be without one of our officers being present. There, the source said, he opened a safe and pulled out a drawer. He took a ring binder notebook out of the drawer. He ripped a plastic case out of the notebook, and he took a picture out of the plastic case. He fled when he heard a noise, and then he lied about it.
Wow.
Am I right there? Am I good there?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, this is like cloak and dagger here. What was this guy doing there? First of all, why would Blakey even allow this guy there? That's the first.
How did he get in the first place?
Yeah, but who saw him do this?
And then, and you're talking about a year later, and, wait a minute. What was in those files? These were safes. They were very much under control. All right. And
so this was deemed insignificant.
And you're talking about the autopsy photographs of JFK.
Insignificant.
I mean, this is no.
Scroll a little further, Gary. I want to read a little more. Middle comments from Blakey sources said he'd always been paranoid about the possibility that some of the gruesome Kennedy autopsy photos might get out and destroy the committee's reputation. No one who has seen those photos would have any doubt that they should not be made public, one source said. The one thing that would have done us, the House Assassination Committee, in would have been for those photos to be publicly released. We were never satisfied that someone else wasn't involved. Now stop and think about that, because the photos they released showed a completely clean back of the head, and there's nothing gruesome about them at all. So they can't be talking about the photographs they actually did release.
Thank you, and that's why I come down here, Jim, and give you exactly what you're talking about. Let me come down.
Yeah. What's gruesome about that? That's actually the Ida Doc's drawing, but I mean, what's gruesome about that?
It's like he had a barbershop.
Yeah. So exactly. So that's a great observation. I think that's the most important thing here. The discussion, in this discussion is because now you're talking about that these people saw, photographs that are not, that one that we just
and the fact of the matter is, nothing is better that should be put in the public domain than the autopsy photographs. They ought to be all out there.
At the top of the list.
Yeah, and I think that's a great observation. I think that's the crux of the matter here, because now we're talking about, wait a minute, these people saw something different.
Right.
In the public record.
Right. They can't possibly be talking about what they actually released, and Blakey has to know it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's just stunning, Larry, in and of itself. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is why, this Blahut thing, that, obviously it's gone over the head of, so many super researchers in the JFK community. I'm not going to mention.
Now, what can they be talking about, though? What photographs did they actually see? Not the Grodin, because we know those are fake.
Yeah.
So it's not the Grodin photographs. So did they have any real photographs?
If they were so shocked and appalled at, the photographs that were in that safe, all right, then we're talking about a whole different ballgame here, Jim,
I think maybe we are, Larry. I think maybe we are.
Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, the Blahut thing, I just want to, I'm going to go to this guy's side because I believe he's been a member now of the OIC. I forget his name, and if I apologize because Ralph knows his name. And he published a lot of information here on some of the memos that were available, back before.
That looked identical to the first one we started. That very much like the report in the Washington Post.
Yeah. So he had some information, but then again, like I was saying, now you're filling out more pieces of the puzzle, so you're able to, see the whole thing in a better perspective. And so going back, and then this other guy, Anthony Frank, because
I'll call you
Jim, I know this is a place where you have you've had many battles, okay? Many battles in the past.
There were a lot of good people on there, but a whole lot of not so good people, and a lot of real disinfo ops as well.
Man in the doorway, and that's why I wanted to put this one up here because somebody
was assailing me about the authenticity of the film and stuff. I mean, it was just outrageous, really. I present the proof, and then they just attack me again and again and again.
Well, this one, obviously everybody's talking. We're talking about the Education Forum, and this guy by the name of Anthony Frank, and he posts a very nice post here on Blahut. All right, and guess what? No comments. Nobody. We're talking about 2004, and nobody. I mean, and of all the great minds, that populate that forum, and nobody even.
Yeah, put that phrase in expression in quotes. Great minds.
Yeah. Nobody even dared to go near this. What's going on? I think this is one of the most important events. In the HSCA.
Yeah, of course.
The cover up.
The pivotal event, apart from changing from Sprague and Gonzalez to
and nobody even gives this guy any play here, Jim. I mean, if you or me or Gary, whatever, we post something,
we would have been all over this.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was very interesting.
It is.
So we go into this memo. Okay, Robert Morrison, which was director of security for the HSCA here, and he says, "Well, wait a minute. Our safes have been broken into. And we're detecting."
Don't you imagine he or the assistant director of security facilitated it?
Oh wow, that's I don't think so because this guy, the memo here is very specific and it's very
Okay, and he's really pissed off.
yeah, and not only him, but his assistants and everything, and if you go through this whole memo and you see that some of this has been redacted,
Right.
yeah, and at the end here, I just want to go here to this.
Are you telling me they didn't have any copies of these photographs so they'd know what the hell had been taken or not taken or substituted or not substituted?
Amazingly enough.
That's just incompetence.
Yeah. Well, apparently,
there had to be the originals in the National Archives, for crying out loud. They didn't only exist here. They should have gone back to the archives and got replacements.
Yeah. Well, they were not. There was no redundancy built in here, obviously,
No, but Larry, no, look. The National Archives wouldn't give up the originals. Even to the HSCA, they would only give them copies. Therefore, if they lost some of their copies, they should have gone back to they had to know an exact inventory of what they were given by the archives.
Well, there's another argument, for cover-up here, because, where the hell are the originals,
Right. Well, they're still in the National Archives.
So then, Mark and Lance feel there is no way this could have been done accidentally. Someone had to go into this.
Right.
And
no way. 100% no way it was an accident.
Yeah, because, and then this guy, and as we're going to see here, he undergoes all kinds of polygraphs and everything, and then they go and ask him, were you following orders? Was this coming from above? And he gets completely thrown under the bus, right? They completely released him, into space here, so to speak. And hey, and then, when Stokes, we're going to see this in a minute here because I think this is very interesting what we're going to present here. And it appears from the content of these new documents that the HSCA staffers were pretty pissed off about the actions of Regis Blahut and wanted to pursue this case.
Well, he should have been prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I mean, he committed a clear security breach. He was prosecutable, Larry.
Of course. And then I think this is the most important document of this whole set here because we're talking about head of the CIA. When you look at Richard Helms, and what was the Colby, these guys only answer to congressional committees, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
These guys just did not talk to, committee councils and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the point of this whole exercise here, And there's a Stansel Turner Admiral outside contact report, which comes out.
I'll read this. This incident was considered by HSCA Chairman Louis Stokes to be of sufficient importance that he should send HSCA Chief Counsel Robert Blakey to meet in person with CIA Director Admiral Stansfield Turner. This was unprecedented. DCIs never met with committee underlings, and Turner made sure his top lieutenants, Fred Hitz and DDCI Carlucci, were present for this meeting. Here's the outside contact report that summarizes the meeting.
Yeah.
Bob Blakey and I met with DCI Turner, Deputy Director Carlucci, and Fred Hitz of the Office of Legislative Counsel at 8 a.m. in Turner's office. Blakey initially noted that he'd come at Chairman Stokes' request to discuss with Turner a recent security violation which had been discovered by the committee. Blakey began by describing to Turner the nature of the Kennedy autopsy pictures, the restrictions under which the committee had acquired and possessed them, the security precautions, separate safe, limited access, and log record utilized to safeguard them, and the possible motives that might exist for someone unlawfully removing them from the committee. Blakey next described the circumstances and details of the committee's discovery made on 6/23/78 that the autopsy photos had been tampered with, and the investigation which the staff thereafter conducted, including the identification of all of those persons who had access to the security space where they were located, the fingerprinting process and results, and ultimately the questioning of Regis Blahut, the CIA employee who was in the security space on that date. Finally,
and Blahut lied about significant details.
Right. Finally, Blakey recalled to Turner Turner's statement to Blakey and Cornwell on February 4th, 1978, to the effect that if the committee found any impropriety or wrongdoing on the part of any CIA employee, he would personally look into it and get to the bottom of it. This is an obvious case subsumed thereby. But Blakey stated that the chairman had been told of Turner's comment on February 4th, 1978, now requested that Turner conduct a further investigation of Blahut matter. Blakey stated that the committee felt such an investigation was necessary for the following reasons. One, the committee had spoken to Blahut on 3 occasions, July 11, 13, and 14, about his knowledge of the tampering with the autopsy photos, on 2 of which, by Blahut's own subsequent admissions, he had lied about significant details, and on the last of which, by independent evidence, Blahut had also lied. 2, Blahut's actions were deliberate, as evidenced by the fact that Blahut had opened the committee safe in which the photos were stored, and on the first 2 interviews with the committee, he lied about having done so. 3.
And, excuse me, and Blahut at the top, Blahut lied after consulting and speaking with his superiors at the agency, Jim. Go ahead, number 3.
3, there's only one possible innocent motive for Blahut's handling and viewing of the autopsy photos, that being personal curiosity, and the evidence unequivocally shows that personal curiosity was not the motive. A page was ripped out. A photo was removed from the plastic sheeting. The log shows the photo book in question had not been removed from the safe by the committee staff since September 1977. And Blahut's story about his handling of and access to the photo book on June 23rd, 1970 is patently unbelievable. And most significantly, 4, prior to at least 2 of the 3 occasions on which Blahut was interviewed by the committee staff, he spoke to his superiors at the agency, and after each of those conversations, he told lies to the committee about his involvement, evidently at their behest. Turner said that he had already looked into the matter and handed us a report which had been written. Turner suggested that Blakey and Cornwell go read the report, not take a copy with them from the building, and also look at Blahut's personnel file. And then let the agent
I wanted to just focus here because, you know, the stuff here that is in bold face here at the top, just sort of summarizing, Blahut was polygraphed 3 times by the agency. Okay? Blahut supervisors had been spoken to and denied any involvement, which means that Blahut gets thrown under the bus. Blahut admits lying to the committee. You know how brazen can
yeah. He's been caught and he's still lying about it.
Yeah, Blahut fails a polygraph.
Yeah.
You know, Blahut was assigned, and this is, I wanted to spend a little time on this, assigned to a project called MH Child, which was in operation in place since 1977. According to the Washington Post article above, we talked about this, Lardner reported. So the assignment, it has been since been learned, was made under a CIA program codenamed MH Child, which sources described as encompassing a variety of babysitter chores. Now, if you go to Mary Farrell, you go to anywhere on the internet, you will not find a single mention of MH Child. Jay.
Yeah, it's pretty damn interesting, Larry, that they don't even have any sites to it.
Exactly, not a single mention anywhere on the internet. So it just sort of, you know, gives you an idea of how hush-hush this MH Child. Now, I wanted to, remember I talked about the Joanides, you know, this is probably exactly the same.
Yeah.
The same model, you know, that was followed, you know, with Joanides when he also went and met with Ed Lopez and Hardaway, you know, about, you know, which is, you know.
But Larry, look at Blakey's completely corrupt role in this, because they went forward and nevertheless published the autopsy photos they knew were not authentic as part of the formal report coming from the HSCA.
Yes, and we're going to see more about Blakey, you know, in a minute here, you know, because he's a real whipping boy, you know, for the CIA here, you know, so. You know.
Does this seem like behavior of innocent men?
Of course not. This is corrupt, completely corrupt.
Well, and you know, like I said, you know, you're running into these documents that start to give you more pieces of the puzzle, Jim. You know, and that's why, again, I have to say, and I've seen it. I've said it so many times. You know, you go to these releases, and you know, you find all that, you know, these documents are redacted, you know, or you know, there's nothing there, you know. bullshit. There is a lot there. You have to go there, and you have to study the documents. You have to, put these pieces together and in perspective, with where they are supposed to be placed. Okay, and then only then are you able to see the whole picture. And again, so many books have been written, based on previous information and previous documents. And I urge, all these great minds and all these other authors, to now reflect on how this new information can change, a lot of their views, and a lot of their information that they've presented, in their book.
This was their guy to sabotage the report of the HSCA. There's no question about it.
Oh, yeah, I think this is a very important document.
Blahut is a saboteur.
Yeah, well, there's more. There's more.
All right. Upon inspection, the report reflected the following. A, the agency interviewed Blahut on Friday evening, July 14th, and polygraphed him 3 times for roughly 2 hours each time on Saturday, July 15th. B, Blahut's supervisor had been spoken to and denied any involvement. C,
of course. What do you think they're going to do?
We better polygraph them too.
Well, that's what
Blahut admitted lying to the committee. D, Blahut basically told the same story to the polygraph effort, Filippo. He had finally told the committee on the morning of July 14th, except that on July 15th, he admitted that he was never given permission by any committee staff member to view the Kennedy autopsy pictures. E, Blahut persisted in his story but lied in doing so, according to the polygraph, that he had opened the committee safe only once, and that was to put a photo book into the safe, and also, again, untruthfully stated that he had only viewed the autopsy books on 2 occasions.
These are stunning, Jim. These are stunning.
Yeah, this guy's repeatedly lying. I mean, it's obviously devious, planned, intentional, deliberate.
This is
massive lie to deceive his audience.
This is stunning information here. I don't know.
Blahut had been assigned to a CIA operation codenamed MH Child since April 1977. And that was some kind of document supervision overseeing program, obviously.
Yeah, of course. And then check this out. The most important passage here is what? Redacted.
Yeah.
Office of Security Chief Gambino and Carlucci's assistant, Hab Smith, met with Blakey and Cornwell after they...
Blank. You think this Gambino with kin with the Chicago Gambino?
The mafia mobster?
Yeah. So anyway, stacking the deck, here we find out that 99, we're going to see, a little bit further down, the CIA is going to produce a report. And they're going to say, Jim, very obviously, very predictably, 99% sure that the final report would show no involvement in the tampering on the part of the agency.
How ridiculous can you get? What bullshit? I mean, Larry, it's just shocking how blatant they are in their abuse.
Yeah, we're going to tamper just enough to make sure that no tampering is evident.
Stacking the deck, 99% sure final report would show no involvement in the tampering on the part of the agency. How could they have that confidence? The personnel file Blahut's reflected that Blahut had consistently what? We know we're clean. Buy a pig in a poke. Something whose true value is concealed or unknown, especially something offered for sale. Blakey sheepishly stated full interviews of all Blahut supervisors should be conducted and written reports made. In addition, Blakey stated that new polygraphs should be taken. Yeah, right.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Had reviewed the investigative report provided by attorney Blakey, requested he be permitted to see Blahut's security file. Gambino refused to give him the security file, but offered the personnel file. The personnel file reflected that Blahut had consistently obliterated.
I told you this one was nasty.
Finally, Smith and Gambino asked Blakey what he felt the agency should do now. Blakey said that full interview of all of Blahut's supervisors, which would have gone up to Admiral
Stansfield Turner.
I know, Stansfield Turner, should be conducted. And
hey. Don't stay standing up,
Right. In addition, Blakey stated that new polygraphs should be taken, focusing primarily on the area he was essentially omitted, namely the question of motive. Smith asked whether the committee was going to accept the agency's investigation after it was completed. He said he wanted to know now, that he wanted a commitment. Smith said he was 99% that the final report would show no involvement on the tampering on the part of the agency. Gambino said, "We know we're clean." How ridiculous. I'm going to bark.
Yeah.
In reply, I asked how the agency could be so sure at this early point that none of their employees except Blahut were involved, and I also commented that Smith was asking the committee to buy a pig in a poke, suggesting that we should tell him now whether or not we would be satisfied with the agency's investigation. How ridiculous is that? Before it was even conducted? Are we going to give you permission to lie your head off? Larry, this is just insulting.
It's insane.
This is insane. I thought Stansfield Turner was a good guy. I no longer believe that.
Yeah. This is the behavior of innocent men. This is the way you act.
And look at right there at the bottom there in longhand, Blahut said we accused him of being a CIA plant. What else? What the hell was he? If not a CIA plant.
Well, of course he was. He was a safekeeper. He was a babysitter. He was making sure they didn't go where they shouldn't go.
Which is exactly what Joanides was, I think this is something that those people at JFK Morley and those people need to be looking at this, as a guideline of how this thing works, because this is as close to a revelation of that babysitting function you're ever going to get,
Right.
Because it's a parallel, Jim. It's exactly the same thing,
That we should tell him now whether or not we'd be satisfied with the agency's investigation before it was even conducted. Both Blakey and I stated what we could state now was that we'd come to the agency with a suggestion that they investigate it because we felt that from among the alternatives now available to committee, that was the one with the best chance of success. Finally, Blakey also noted his hope was that after the agency's investigation was complete, copies of the reports could be placed in the agency's and the committee's files, and that would be the end of it. The meeting was terminated with a general understanding Blakey's suggestion would be followed, and the agency would let us know when they had their reports complete, their phony cover-up reports.
And Blakey goes,
piss on the CIA.
Yeah.
It's just so outrageous. I mean, this is their arrogance shining through.
Yeah.
I told you this was going to be a winner, Jim. I'm telling you.
This is a doozy. This is a doozy.
You need to publish this one over there on your.
This is an effing doozy.
And what were Blakey's recommendations? Were they followed? Did Louis Stokes follow up on to make sure that everything that Blakey recommended? Of course not. Hey, you think you're going to go and polygraph? Stansfield?
This guy should have been prosecuted to the full extent of the law and worked the way up the food chain.
And guess what? You don't know about any of this until now.
That's right.
Everybody's dead.
Until 2017. Jesus Christ.
But you know damn well that Blakey knew what they were publishing as the HSCA report was horse shit.
Of course, Blakey just was. Obviously he went through the motions. Okay, I think because of Louis Stokes, I think Louis Stokes might have been, a little bit more persistent. Had he been a little bit more persistent, but then when you're going up against, this monolith, like what the CIA is, then.
Well, I'd always understood that Turner had got rid of some 1,500 corrupt CIA agents. I now believe he was one of them.
Especially now after reading this, huh?
Yes.
Of course.
This is a very persuasive document.
Yeah, I think, and it's an outside contact report. It is, let me go up here to the top to give you. You see where it says this was a meeting in person?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not talking about a telephone conversation here. We're talking about a meeting of real people.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, I think this is a very, very extremely important document.
Oh, absolutely, Larry. You're so right to have fingered it. This is crucial.
Yeah, very crucial. And we're talking about, you know, this.
That's not even, that's a drawing. That's not even.
I know it is. I know it is.
Yeah.
And I put it there on purpose. I know it's the item box.
Yeah, but just to indicate what we meant. We do have the corresponding photograph, which obviously is a fabrication.
Of course, the matte insert and everything. And I really wanted to Dr. Mantic to you know, look at this, because I think he's done so much incredible work.
Oh, we got to send him this. I'll send him this. I'll send him this, Larry.
Yeah, and because I think he needs to know about this.
Yeah, of course.
Because it, you know, not only his book, you know, is so important. You know, the latest book that he wrote, but all the work that he's done for over 30 years, you know, Jim, and this would probably give him, you know, more information. Like I said, I have to keep talking about pieces to the puzzle, you know, and yeah. So
he'll appreciate this so much.
Yeah, because it gives him, you know, a better understanding of, you know, what he was up against, you know. Because Mantic has been going, you know, with what little information, you know, he's been allowed to obtain, all right? And now, you know, we're looking at a whole different perspective here on how Blahut was sent, okay, to obfuscate, obviously, and we don't know. And like, you know, you just mentioned that, you know, wait a minute, these people were talking about these gruesome photographs. You know, and that's not what we see in the archives. We're looking at this, you know, we're looking at this. We're not looking.
I did not know that was a drawing. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a corresponding photograph. I put them both up when I do my presentation.
I think the observation that Jim made earlier was just incredibly, you know, spot on. You know, where wait a minute, you know, we're talking about this. These are not gruesome photographs. But what they're talking about up here are very gruesome photographs.
Right. So what photographs are they talking about?
Exactly.
Did they have real autopsy photographs, which we have never seen?
Exactly. So when we're talking about flipping, you know, the switch here, you know, and Blahut's involvement here, then wait a minute, you know, there might be something here. I think there really is, Jim.
It's very interesting, Larry, in all kinds of ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, these documents is unbelievable. Last week was just a blueprint of false flags that we see going on to this very minute.
Yeah, well, you know, this is the mother of false flags.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just did a thing today with Carrie Cassidy, and Oli Domagard and I made a presentation about how to sort out false flags, and we used about a dozen different examples. You guys might enjoy it. It's up already, I'm sure, at Project Camelot just today from 3 to 5:30.
Well, you know, we need to now that we're blacklisted on YouTube, you know, find all these alternative means of getting the information out. And,
well, Gary's already being resourceful with 153news.net.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's what we're up against right now. We're on 153 News, and it seems that Gus Chambers has been doing a great job of getting the videos up.
But I have to go back to the concept of revenue that comes in from advertisers. Okay. And that's
Larry, we're no longer living in a free society. We're now in a Stalinist era where the government is suppressing the people's right to express their opinion and to share their research. It's a disgraceful situation in which we find ourselves.
I was watching the movie 1984 with James Wood, John Hurt. I'm sorry, John Hurt. And wow, you know, I was just really.
We're there, Larry.
Oh, absolutely.
We are there.
Yes, we've been censored in every way. I mean, 7,000 subscribers, 380 1-hour minimum videos with video presentations, slideshows, and everything. Just terminated.
Gary, tell me something about what you've heard as feedback from the DC conference.
Well, I haven't had time to talk to anybody. You know, a lot of times, you know, talk to people. Oh, wait a minute. I did talk to Craig the attorney from Washington, he sent me a really nice email. And I was very, very happy to receive that because he saw my presentation. He met my father and everything, and he I think because obviously the one presentation that was presenting new documents was mine.
Yeah.
And yeah, and a lot of the other presentations were just developing other information and other thesis
that was already known.
Yeah, yeah, and that I think that's the thing that we need to look at, going forward. New information, and it's there. Like I said, it's really there. You have to go there and look at.
Tell me about your dad's assessment of the whole thing. He's a sharp cookie.
He loved it. He loved it. He was there every day, every minute, every half hour, every hour, and I was so proud because at the end, when the presentation on Saturday, oh my God, what's his name? On what happened in Bethesda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he asked that one question on wow, what was the name of the guy?
Yeah, I got it right here. He's a super good guy.
John Liggett. Remember John Liggett?
Yeah.
He has a question about Liggett. Yeah, and he asked Casey Quinlan.
Casey Quinlan, yeah. On John Liggett, and Casey was taken aback. He said, "Oh, wait a minute, you know about John Liggett? I wasn't going to talk about him, but now that you're mentioning him,
Gary, Larry, I wrote on my program that we ought to have Casey on this show.
Yeah. Casey's great.
Let's get it going. So,
and we also have to have the fellow from the pallbearers.
Yeah, Brian Edwards.
No, not Brian Edwards. Oh my God.
Come on, Larry.
Hubert Clark.
Hubert.
Yeah, Hubert Clark.
I've got so much stuff in my.
I like that guy so much.
Yeah, and he is such a great guy. And he asked me. I told him, look, would you be willing to come on the show? And I've been meaning to call him. And
like two good shows right there.
Well, we ought to have him and Casey. Yeah.
You know what he said to me? He said to me, Larry, anything for you.
That's nice. I like it.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
Gary, I was actually interested too whether you picked up anything about it.
Gary.
Well, I haven't heard anything.
Gary.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but what I would like to do is find out from David Denton when the DVD is going to come out. And the last time they had a show, we probably did 4 or 5 shows out of that one DVD. So I've already asked, to find out when it's going to be ready. And,
well, the right person to ask is Lorian Fenton, and so I'll ask her.
Yeah, Lorian. Yeah.
What was your overall assessment of the conference, Larry?
I thought it was very, very good. I was very interested in what Richard Bartholomew had to say. Casey Quinlan.
He's a good guy, that Richard Bartholomew.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And he's got a book coming forth now. He's got a book that's to be published. Ed Schwartz and Judy, of course. And I just wanted to say, Ed Tatro was a little bit. He had a lot of interventions there. Obviously, he was in control of a lot of the situations there with the speakers. But we're not going to get into that. But
we'll just wait till we can play the DVD.
Yeah, David Denton, of course, he's a master.
Lorian told me some people even contacted her and said they heard that Ed and I got into fisticuffs.
Not even close.
That we were actually duking it out.
Not even close.
Well, verbally, but not physically. That's a very different matter.
Yeah, I liked, what was the name of the guy that you said earlier with Quinlan?
Hubert?
No, with Quinlan.
Brian Edwards?
Yeah, Brian. I met and we hung out together for a while, and I gave him a copy of a lot of my research. I gave him a copy of the JFK Horsemen, the recordings, the actual recordings, which he wanted. And, You know, and Jim, you know, I will share my research with anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I'm not like Grodin.
I'm the same way as you, Larry. I don't go on any show. Any show they invite me, I don't care about its orientation.
Right.
Left, right, middle, religious, non-religious, whatever, I'll do them all.
Right. I don't make any money on this, you know. So, you know, and if somebody comes over to me and says, look, I'd like to have copies of this, and that. Hey, here's my computer. Give me a pen drive. I'll give you a copy of everything.
There you go. So,
I mean, what's the deal? You know, I'm not trying to, you know, hog, you know, and hoard anything, you know.
Right.
Like we know other people have done.
You're satisfied with just the fact that you're a top researcher on the planet Earth. There's no doubt about it. So, looks like as the days of our lives, so is the sands through the hourglass.
We just want the book to start selling. That's all.
There you go.
Right away. All right, JFK 177. Appreciate it, Jim Fetzer, Larry Rivera. My name's Gary King. We'll see you next week, and thank you, 153news.net.
All right.